Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing how to make this fun sushi themed card with tons of critters sitting around the table eating and the cute bird coming in and dropping off some extra soy sauce. So it's just a fun critter filled scene card and it's got a really nice colorful background that I blended with Distress Oxide inks. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm actually starting this card by doing some coloring, which is unusual for me. I'm going to show the stamp sets that I used. I'm starting with Let's Roll, and then the Butterfly Kisses stamp set, followed by Let's Go Nuts for the little squirrels, Den Sweet Den for the sitting bear, Crazy Antics for the picnicking mice, which actually don't make it onto the card, Elphie Selfie for the little elephant, and then of course Special Delivery Box add-on for the strings of the box, and Special Delivery for the bird itself. I did stamp all of these off camera. I just used a Copic Friendly black ink. I used My Favorite Things Extreme Black ink. And I used some Neenah Solar white paper, which is my favorite white paper for Copic coloring. It's just a very nice bright white and it allows the Copic markers to blend really nicely. So I did go ahead and stamp all of those images off camera, and I just wanted to show from the very beginning, just getting into the coloring. I'm showing it this way because in real life I actually did stamp and color all of these images first. Normally when I'm card making, I start by building the background, and then, if I need to, I let it dry, and then while it's drying, I go ahead and stamp out and color all the images and critters that are going to go into the scene. But for some reason this time I was just in the mood to color, and I find, especially when you're crafting, you should just do what you're in the mood for, right? Like, you're doing this to have fun, so I really wanted to color, so I just sat down and stamped out all these images and got right into the coloring. I'm using a lot of these images because a lot of these stamps are actually new to me over the holidays, which is a lot of fun. I was gifted the Let's Roll and the Elphie Selfie stamp set, and before the holidays I had actually purchased for myself, gifted to myself I guess, the Special Delivery and Special Delivery Box add-on sets, which is where those birds and little packagey strings come from. So I thought it would be fun to combine some of these new stamp sets that I got into one card. So the idea behind this card was that a whole bunch of critters are going to be sitting around a table eating sushi, and that the bird is going to be flying over and delivering the soy sauce to the table, which I thought was really cute. So like I said, I'm using my Copic markers to color these images, and I'm just kind of going through one by one and coloring them in. In places where the stamping wasn't 100% perfect, or if it was patchy, I do like to come in with a black Copic multi-liner and just kind of go over those lines and really make them nice and black and reinforce them. And I like to use a Copic multi-liner for this because it is a true black. It's nice and thin. You can get different thicknesses and thinnesses of marker and pen with the Copic multi-liners, but I find, for me, the 0.5 thickness is the perfect thickness to kind of use to come in and touch up these stamped images with kind of matching up with the thickness of the lines of the stamped images themselves. So that's what I use. And it is Copic friendly, of course, because it's a Copic multi-liner, so it doesn't bleed or blend into the Copic marker colors themselves, and it's nice and solid. So I like to use that marker to touch up my stamped images in places where they didn't stamp perfectly, and you'll see me doing that from time to time in the video here. With my Copic coloring specifically, I tend to use two shades within each of these small images, a dark shade and a light shade. Sometimes I'll use three shades, like you can see on these black sushis. I am like this set of 6. I am using 3 shades of gray, with the darkest on the outside, a medium to blend, and then the lightest on the inside. And that's just because I really wanted a stark contrast between light and dark to create that really nice band of highlighting down the center of those rolls. But in smaller images or other images where that's not as needed, I do often just use 2 shades, and I'm doing that in the centers of these set of 6 sushis as well with the different colors. So for example, for the green, I just use a dark green and a light green and kind of just blended them together. Same with the blue, and then same with the red. So just a dark blue and a light blue, and then a dark red and a light red, and called it a day. And that usually does provide enough shading to kind of add a lot of dimension. I picked a few different shades of coloring to color in sort of the insides and the tops of these different sushis and rolls, and I kind of stuck with them throughout. So a couple shades of green, some blues, some oranges, and some reds. And for the rest of the images, I'm kind of just coloring them in traditional colors, I guess. I colored the table and the chopsticks a light brown. I'm coloring the squirrels a darker brown, and I'm just going ahead and coloring all 3 at once. So just starting with the darkest shade of brown, then I'll go to the lighter shade after. I actually do use a middle shade for these guys. So these colors I'm using on the squirrels are E15, E13, and I believe E00 is going to be the lightest shade. For the elephant, I just used some nice shades of gray. For the bird, I'd use some shades of yellow. Again, just kind of sticking to traditional colors here. As you can see, I also stamped a whole bunch of those little flower images that come in the Let's Roll stamp set. I thought that they looked like almost like cherry blossom leaves. I just thought they were really pretty, so I stamped a whole bunch in the light pink and a whole bunch in sort of a darky purpley pink color. In both sizes, the stamps actually come with a large one and a small one, as you can see. So I thought that they might just make some nice accents around the card, and I do end up incorporating them up near the top of the scene, so I'm glad that I stamped them out. And whatever I didn't use on this card, I did save, so I'll be able to use them on a future card, which is always a nice thing to do. And that really goes for any images that I've stamped and colored here that I don't end up using on this card, because they don't end up all fitting onto the card, so I just put them aside and I will save them for my next card. So that is pretty much it for the coloring. And now I am going into the background blending. So I've got my ink blending mat out so that I don't get any ink onto my work surface. And I'm just blending with some dried Marigold Distress Oxide ink. And this whole panel is just one color. It's not even blending two colors, but I tried to make it an ombre by blending more heavily towards the bottom and blending more lightly towards the top. So it does look like there's a gradation of shading, but even though it all comes from the same color. And it's very easy to do that with Distress Oxide inks. I left a band of white at the bottom because I figured that's going to kind of be the ground. So I didn't want it to have that dried marigold color on the ground. I just wanted it to be plain white. I laid out a paper towel to cover up the ground and then splattered out some liquid Stardust from Fawn onto the card panel so that it's all shimmery and anywhere where there's orange is also shimmery. And I did that by kind of just dropping a few little drops of the liquid onto an acrylic block and then splattering it out using a paintbrush. For the sentiment, I stamped out the word arigato from the Let's Roll stamp set onto a strip of pearlescent vellum from Fawn, and I wanted to cut it down so that it was a bit thinner, but I didn't want to cut into the letters. So I just used my paper trimmer here to cut all the way up to the letters on either side, and then I could just use my snippy scissors to cut out around the letters on the top and on the bottom, which you'll see in a moment. As I'm doing this, I'm just taping my strip into the paper trimmer using some tape so that it doesn't move around because it is so thin. And it's kind of hard to hold on with your fingers, so taping it down is an easy way to just make sure it stays in place. And once I've done that on the bottom, I can come back in with my scissors and cut around those words again, so that the words kind of stick out from the strip, but I think that's fine. I actually like the way that looks. Now to stick this down onto my card panel, I'm just putting a small piece of double-sided tape behind the words where it'll be hard to see it through the vellum because the words are covering it up, and then I can just stick that right down onto my card panel where I want it. Then I can fold the edges over the card panel and put some double-sided tape on those folded pieces as well and stick them down onto the back of the card panel and then just trim off any excess. So that way the entire vellum piece is stuck nicely down to the card panel, but most of the tape is behind and the rest is hidden underneath the word. I do just add one reinforcing piece there as well on the side, which I know will be covered by the bird image I plan to use, so it didn't matter if it was sort of seen through the vellum. Now that that is done, it's time to stick the whole card panel down onto my card base with some liquid glue and just make sure that it's nice and straight, and then I can start sort of assembling the whole scene. I'm starting by preparing all of those images, which I did go ahead and cut out off camera. I'm just gluing together any of the pieces that need to be glued. So for the bird, I'm gluing the little packaging strings onto this bottle of soy sauce, and then I'm gluing those back onto the bird's foot as well, so it looks like the bird is carrying them. Then I'm kind of just arranging where I want everything else, and I knew that I wanted the bear to be sitting behind the table off to the side, so I'm gluing the bear down straight away, and then I can glue a bunch of these sushis onto the table where I want them. I ended up only being able to fit a few of the sushi pieces onto the table. I would have liked to have fit more that I had stamped and colored, but it was already becoming a little cluttered. It might have already become a little over cluttered, so I just left a few pieces out and I'll use them on another card like I mentioned. So I put some foam squares onto the back of that table with the sushi on it, but I haven't released the release paper yet. What I like to do is I like to sort of set everything up on my card front using foam squares and put things where I want them to be, but not actually stick them down yet until everything is in place. And once everything is in place, I can then just go through one by one and take that release paper off and stick each image down exactly where I know it should be. So that's kind of how I like to arrange these complex scene cards and make sure that everything really sticks in place where it should. I put one of the chopsticks into the elephant's arms and kind of have it sitting out horizontally on the bottom of the card there. I place a little bunny off to the left, the little squirrel off to the right, and the little mouse just standing on top of one of the sushi pieces waiting for that soy sauce bottle to be delivered. I put the other mouse holding the other chopstick in the air like he's jumping to eat the sushi, which I think is really cute. So like I mentioned, once everything is in place, it's time to just go through one by one, take that release paper off, and then stick the images down, which I have done now. Finally, like I mentioned, I can just add in a few of those little cute flowery type leaves that I'd stamped out in pink and purple just onto the top of the card there as a little extra embellishment, and as a final touch, I can go through with some gemstones and glue them down with some liquid glue as well. And that will finish off the scene. So I really love how this card came out. I love how it's like a sushi party with all of the critters, especially because we can't really have parties right now in real life. It's nice to see these critters are enjoying their time together around a table, something I would definitely love to return to doing in real life soon. So thank you so much for watching. If you like my cards, definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more, or head over to my Instagram account, which is linked down in the video description below, and I post a lot more cards there as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye!